Welcome to Money RX for CRNAs and nurse practitioners. If you're a nurse around age 50 and you're thinking, I can do this for about 10 more years maybe, then this episode is for you. Because burnout from nursing changes the game. When you're tired, you don't want more complexity in your life. You want a plan that creates options. Like you want to invest smarter, or you want to pay less in taxes, and you want to make work optional so you can retire on your timeline, not someone else's. So today, we're going to talk about 5 money moves to make in 2026. Not theory, not vague motivation, but real moves that you can implement. And each one of these moves is designed for someone who is already responsible, already a saver, but feels like the finish line keeps moving away from them. And one quick note before we jump in. A lot of financial advice is built for people who are just getting started, and that, of course, is fine. But if you're age 50 and you're 10-ish years from retirement, the problem for you is usually not how do I start saving? The problem is how do I turn what I've saved into freedom without getting crushed by taxes, without getting trapped by my own accounts and decisions, and without being scared to spend. And that's what we're going to talk about today. All right. So let's get into what we call the 5 moves. Move number 1. Here's a phrase I want you to remember. Qualified rich, cash poor. Now that's the retirement version of being house rich, cash poor. You can look incredibly wealthy on paper and still feel trapped because too much of your money is locked inside retirement accounts that come with rules. Rules like taxes on withdrawals or penalties if you tap them too early, required distributions later, and a tax bill that can blow up right when you want financial freedom. Now, let me be clear. 401ks and 403bs are incredible, and pre-tax savings can be impactful. And of course, if you get an employer match, take it every time. But here's the trap for high earners in the healthcare field that I see. If you spend 25 to 30 years maxing retirement pre-tax, you can accidentally create a future where you have a very large account balance and limited flexibility. And flexibility is what early or semi-early retirement requires. Because the real question is not, can I retire at 60? It's, can I afford to not work at age 55 if I need to? Or can I drop to part-time shift work without stress? Or maybe even, can I take a year off to just breathe? And that's where people get stuck. So the first 2026 move is this. Use a match first and then flexibility funding plan, meaning contribute enough to get the full employer match on your retirement plan. Then build a second bucket that gives you options. Now, for most CRNAs and nurse practitioners, that second bucket is usually something like a taxable brokerage account, or maybe a high-yield savings or money market account. Sometimes it's a Roth strategy, and sometimes a dedicated bridge account for the years before age 59 and a half. Because let's say you're 52 and you are done. You are completely burnt out from nursing and you want out of the game. If your wealth is mostly in pre-tax retirement accounts, then you can have a net worth that looks fantastic and still feel like Yeah, but I can't touch anything. That's qualified rich, cash poor. And here's the slightly provocative part. Maximizing your retirement plan at work is not automatically the most responsible thing. It might be optimal, or it might be you unknowingly locking up future freedom. So the right move is not always max retirement. The right move is max retirement with a purpose. So for this move in 2026, here are the action steps. Number 1, confirm your employer match and make sure you are capturing 100% of it. Then look at your total savings rate, not just your 401k contribution or 403b contribution. If you're already saving aggressively, consider redirecting some of those dollars into a taxable freedom fund. And I'll give you a simple way to think about it. If you're within 10 years of retiring, you should be building money that you can access before traditional retirement age without having to beg the IRS for permission. And that is the first move. Now, move number 2 is where people get really emotional. Don't default your Social Security strategy. And I know a lot of people hear one of two messages when it comes to Social Security. Message 1 is take Social Security early. It is going broke. Get it when you can. Or message 2 is to delay until age 70. That is always the best. Well, both of those messages are incomplete because Social Security is not a vibe. It's math, and the right strategy depends on you. So here's the key concept. Every year you delay Social Security, you are buying a higher guaranteed check. And so you're effectively earning a return on waiting. And roughly speaking, delays up to full retirement age increase benefits meaningfully, and delays beyond that add more delayed credits for you. And for a lot of people, that guaranteed increase is incredibly valuable, especially if you want more stability later on in life. But it is not a universal rule. Let's say if you have serious health concerns or your plan depends on cash flow early, or you're retiring at 55 and just need the income. That changes it. And for married couples, it gets even more strategic. So the move for 2026 is simple. You do not choose Social Security based on fear or headlines. You model it. Because for many CRNAs and nurse practitioners, Social Security becomes part of your retirement paycheck. And your paycheck decisions should not be guesses. And then action step 2 is estimate your Social Security benefits at age 62, your full retirement age, and age 70. And decide what role you want it to play for you. Is it a floor income for you later? Or is it going to be bridge income for you earlier in retirement? And if married, you need to evaluate the household strategy, not just your own, and a mindset shift for you in regards to Social Security. Social Security isn't just a check, it is longevity insurance. And if burnout from nursing is your reality, the goal is not to win Social Security. The goal is to make your future self feel safe so that your present self can stop overworking. And that leads us to move number 3. Build your retirement paycheck first and then invest the rest. So most people I see pick an asset allocation like this. 60-40 stocks to bonds for a normal allocation. 70-30 stocks to bonds for a growth allocation, or maybe 80-20 stocks to bonds for an aggressive allocation. But that thinking is backwards. A better starting place is to ask this question: how much do I need this portfolio to pay me? Because you're not trying to win a performance contest. You will lose. You're trying to replace a paycheck. So here's a framework that's easy and it's very powerful. And we call it the 5-year paycheck buffer framework. You take your annual portfolio withdrawal need, multiply that by 5, and that's roughly how much you may want to put into conservative assets so that you're not forced to sell stocks in a bad market. Why? Because sequence of returns risk is real. Bad markets early in retirement can do more damage than bad markets later because you're withdrawing while your portfolio is down. And so a buffer gives you psychological safety and, frankly, mathematical protection. Now, does it have to be 5 years? No. Some people prefer 2 to 3. Some people want 5. But for someone burnt out from nursing who doesn't want to panic sell, then 5 years can often be quite calming. Here's how it works. If your target lifestyle costs, say, $120,000 gross withdrawals, and you want 5 years of steady money, well, $120,000 times 5 equals $600,000. If your portfolio is $2 million, $600,000 is 30%. So that suggests something like a 70-30 stocks to bonds overall allocation. But here's the upgrade for CRNAs and nurse practitioners. You then have to adjust for other income. If Social Security covers part of the need, or you have rental income, or your spouse continues working, and your portfolio doesn't need to carry the whole load. So this can then reduce the buffer requirement. And this matters because it's not just about return. It's about confidence. When the market drops, the goal is not to be brave. The goal is to have a plan that does not require bravery. And so some action steps for move number 3. Define your retirement spending target in today's dollars. And then identify expected income sources. Social Security, pension if applicable, rental income, part-time work, and compute the annual gap your portfolio must then fund. Multiply that gap by 3 to 5 years to size your conservative bucket. And then the rest can be growth assets. And now that we've built the paycheck framework, move number 4 is where we get sneaky in a very good way. Use asset location to get the same risk, but with better results. So most people know asset allocation like I was just talking about: stocks, bonds, cash. But what most people miss is asset location. And it matters a lot for the exact person listening or watching this episode. A high earner who has saved across multiple account types. Asset allocation is what you own. Asset location is where you own it. And if you've got a 401k or a 403b, maybe a Roth IRA, and a taxable brokerage account, then you have the ability to place investments in the accounts that treat them the best. Here's what I mean. This is the classic mistake. People will say, I'm an 80-20 type of investor, and they make every single account they own 80% stocks, 20% bonds. Now that sounds neat and it feels actually pretty organized, and it can be very inefficient because your Roth IRA is often your most valuable real estate. Why? Well, because Roth dollars can grow tax-free for a very long time. And for many people, Roth is the last bucket that you will spend from. So if Roth is long-term money, why would we slow it down with conservative bonds? In many cases, Roth is best used as a growth engine. Meanwhile, the taxable brokerage account is often your early retirement bridge. And because it's the bridge, the money that you will pull from first, it may make sense for it to be a bit more stable. So you can keep the same household level allocation, but rearrange where each piece lives. So you have one household, 3 accounts, same overall risk, but better tax efficiency, better cash flow behavior, and most importantly, less stress. Now, an important warning. If you move things around inside of a taxable brokerage account, you can trigger capital gains taxes. So the move is not to rearrange everything instantly. The move is to relocate things intelligently and coordinate it with tax planning. And here are your action steps for move number 4. Identify all the account types and totals that you own. Pre-tax, Roth, taxable, and confirm your total target allocation from move number 3. And consider Roth as the higher growth bucket, and consider your taxable accounts as the earlier spending and stability bucket. And then rebalance those carefully and coordinate that with your tax planning. Which leads us directly into move number 5. Win the tax game in your gap years. If you're age 50 and you want to retire around age 60, your biggest planning window is often what we call the gap years. These are the years after you stop full-time work, but before Social Security and definitely before required minimum distributions or RMDs are fully online. This is where smart retirees create massive, massive tax savings because your income often drops, which means you may have more control over your tax brackets. And so here are 3 big tools that show up for you to use as levers in these gap years. 1, you have tax gain harvesting in the brokerage account. In some situations, you can realize long-term capital gains at very low rates, sometimes even 0% federally, depending on your income and filing status. So that can let you clean up concentrated positions, reduce volatility, rebalance your taxable account without a painful tax bill. And the second action step is to do Roth conversions selectively. If you have a large pre-tax balance, you may want to convert some dollars to Roth during lower income years. Not because Roth is always better, but more importantly because it can reduce future required minimum distributions, it can smooth taxes across your lifetime, and it can increase flexibility for you later. Action step 3 is Healthcare and Affordable Care Act planning. Now, this matters a lot for early retirees. Your taxable income can affect health insurance subsidies. So tax planning isn't just what bracket am I in? It's also what does this do to my health care costs? This is why retirement planning isn't just an investing type of event. It's a tax planning event more than anything else. So some action steps for move number 5. Identify your likely retirement income gap years. As I use an example, age 58 to maybe 65, and forecast your income sources in those years. Then map out the tax brackets and decide if Roth conversions make sense or if capital gains harvesting makes sense. And coordinate that with your healthcare planning so you don't accidentally create an expensive year. Now, let me land this with something I wish more burnt out nurses heard. You don't need a perfect plan. You need a plan that creates options for you. And the biggest risk for high savers isn't only running out of money, it's also spending your whole life saving and then retiring and being too afraid to use it. So here's a question I want you to think about in 2026. What's too much money to die with? Not in a morbid way, but in a freeing way. Because if your plan is strong and your numbers work, you should be able to spend without guilt. That's the point of the plan. And if you're serious about making work optional in the next 10 years, the next step is always the same. Know your number, know your tax strategy, know your paycheck plan, and then take action. And I'll see you in the next episode.
This podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. It should not be relied upon as a basis for investment decisions. This podcast does not engage in rendering legal, financial, or other professional services.